New Fox News polls out today give President Biden low marks on his handling of the most important issue to voters, the economy. And about a third of voters say the economy is the most important issue right now. Immigration and border security are second on the list, and climate change is third. And Biden isn't giving much reassurance that the economy will even turn around. He's even blaming the media for making people worried.
I think things are a little out of whack, and I don't blame people for being down. For example, even if they're feeling down about employment, they've got better jobs. They're making more money. Inflation is still higher than it should be, and everything from gasoline prices to a war going on in Ukraine. I mean, so I can't think of a time when there's been greater uncertainty. I think it goes well beyond the economy. Think about it. You make the news. I mean, you interview for the news. Can you think of anything they turn on the television and go, God, that makes me feel good? Almost anything. Everything is in the negative.
Well, so how is Biden doing on the economy? Not well, according to the Fox News polling. About 2/3 of voters disapprove of how he is handling the economy and inflation. Republicans say Biden and the progressive wing of the Democratic Party are trying to destroy America, not save it.
The truth is, the left today, seems to be working on a blueprint on how to ruin America. If you wanted to ruin America, you would print and spend trillions of dollars, leading to the highest inflation we've seen in 40 years. If we don't understand the state of America and the weakness of the progressive movement, then it's impossible for us to offer positive, optimistic solutions to the challenges that we face because of the progressive wing of the Democrat Party.
Right. Well, Anita, I'm going to go to you. Economy, obviously, the big ticket item on every voter's mind because it really does affect everyone.
Sure.
And obviously, President Biden didn't cause inflation, but he certainly hasn't helped it. We have COVID to thank for the start of inflation, but he's not helping it. Let's think about the American Rescue Plan that came through in 2021 that increased spending, the Inflation Reduction Act, which, despite the name, didn't actually combat inflation. It actually has more spending. He himself said, well, we have, gas prices and we have the war in Ukraine. But it's like he's the one who's canceling the Keystone Pipeline. Yeah. He's the one who's funding the war in Ukraine. He's not helping.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a lot of spending during his administration so far, and it's not over yet. But I do think it's interesting when you look at the polling, the difference in the importance of different topics that Democrats place versus Republicans. I was just looking at one poll. Both groups think the economy is the top issue. But the second issue for Democrats is climate change by 18%, and the GOP says about 3%. So it is interesting to look at what voters feel is important. But the economy is on top. And, Biden's in trouble there if you look at those numbers.
Well, that's right. So the polling shows that economy is number one. Polling shows that people don't think President Biden's doing well. And Guy, I want to get your opinion on the fact that there's another poll about Democratic primary voters on their 2024 nominee. 37% said we should keep Biden. 53% say they want to see someone else. Yet take a listen to this. President Biden continues to play coy, but he is alluding to another run.
Let me ask you the question everyone is asking. Are you running?
Well, apparently someone interviewed my wife today, I heard.
I heard that too, just before I came in.
I got to call her and find out. No, all kidding aside. My intention hasn't been from the beginning to run. But there's too many other things I have to finish in the near term before I start a campaign.
Well, let me ask you brought up your wife, the First Lady, Jill Biden, obviously, traveling in Kenya. She was asked just today, is all that's left at this point simply setting a time and a place for the announcement? And she said, pretty much. Do you agree with your wife's assessment?
Say, God love her. Look, I meant what I said. I've got other things to finish before I get into a full-blown campaign.
So what do you make of this guy? He has more things to finish. Does that include making the inflation even worse than he already has?
Exactly.
I mean, we talked about this yesterday on the show, this I intend, he intends dance that they've been doing now for weeks and months. That's going to have an expiration date at some point. They can probably get away with it rather for a little while longer. But at a certain point, if they don't actually commit and they don't actually announce a reelection bid, then all the whispers will grow louder and louder about other people potentially jumping in based on, among other things, the polling that we just put on the screen. A lot of Democrats are not thrilled at the prospect of nominating this man again, but he's the incumbent president. They almost always run for re-election. It's very difficult to uproot an incumbent who wants to run again. So we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, the other polling that jumped out at me, Nicole, was when we put all the issues up on the screen. He is underwater among the American people broadly. He's underwater on every single issue polled. And on the most important issue to Americans, economy, inflation, he's at the very bottom in the 30s. So if you're the Republicans, that's good news for you. The perhaps tempered good news and concerning element of it is he was also struggling and sucking wind on these issues in November of 2022, and the Republicans underperformed pretty significantly. So the notion that there would just be some sort of layup against Joe Biden or anyone else for the Republicans in 24, I don't think overconfidence is wise.
But in terms of a timeline of announcing his reelection bid, if you look at when Barack Obama was president, he didn't announce his reelection bid until April and didn't start campaigning until May. So
But he also wasn't 80. And he didn't have those numbers among Democrats.
The incompetence that Joe Biden has. That's an important point. And I agree when you're talking about what happened in this previous election, how it isn't necessarily a layup. I think that's why we have to have a robust Republican primary. Ron DeSantis seems to be a guy who can really challenge Trump. Whoever wins, we support the nominee and we move on. But at this particular time, when I see the things that Joe Biden is saying, he's like, oh, I don't blame people, but you did. That's what you've done for months. You've blamed Americans continuously and said that they were brainwashed, as if they don't know that their bank accounts are being defunded, if you will. $7,500 on average per American they have lost from inflation. This is a serious issue, and it tells you exactly why his poll numbers are what they are. But for us to actually win this next presidential cycle, we got to have the best representation possible to take on Joe Biden. And I think we could do that and actually win.
Well, polling shows that Americans aren't necessarily confident in his ability to handle inflation, and even Democrats are wondering if he should run again. So this will be an interesting next couple months.
For sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.